Elena Gonzalez had always thought that sawdust and security smelled the same, clinging to her father's flannel shirts like a promise that hard work could hold the world together in a small town like Oak Ridge, Kansas, where wheat fields stretched endless under big skies and folks still left doors unlocked because trust was as common as Sunday potlucks. Juan Gonzalez, with his weathered hands scarred from years of swinging hammers and measuring twice to cut once, ran Gonzalez Carpentry out of a weathered barn behind their modest ranch house, fixing porches for widows who paid in apple pies, building barns for farmers scraping by on thin margins, and crafting handmade cribs for every new baby in the county without charging a dime because kids deserve a good start, he'd say with that quiet grin that made Elena feel like the luckiest girl alive. Her mother had passed from complications during Elena's birth, a rare blood disorder that no one saw coming, leaving Juan to raise his daughter alone with stories of her mother's laughter echoing through their home like ghosts he cherished, teaching Elena to sand wood smooth before she could ride a bike, humming old corridos from his Mexican roots while they worked side by side, his calluses a map of sacrifices she didn't fully understand until much later. By 28, Elena had a degree in architecture from community college scholarships and night classes, moving back to help modernize the business with design software and eco-friendly materials. But Juan resisted, insisting Hart doesn't need a computer upgrade, even as big-box home improvement stores gobbled up clients with cheap imports and flashy ads. That's when she met Ryan Caldwell, a slick consultant from Kansas City with a Tesla that purred like a cat and suits that cost more than Juan's truck, in town scouting land for luxury developments that promised to turn farmland into gated communities with golf courses and man-made lakes. He stopped by the barn for a custom bookshelf quote that turned into coffee, then dinner, his charm wrapping around her like varnish on fresh pine, telling her she was the most grounded beauty he'd ever met, while she blushed under the sawdust in her hair. Ryan wooed her with city escapes, rooftop bars where champagne fizzed like dreams, weekends in lofts overlooking skylines that made Oak Ridge feel like a postcard from yesterday, and Juan watched with wary eyes, murmuring once over tacos, "Mija, flash fades, but foundations last." Elena waved it off. Ryan made her feel alive, valued beyond the barn, and when he proposed on a hot air balloon at dawn with a diamond that caught the sun like fire, she said yes, imagining a life blending their worlds. But 6 months before the wedding, the cracks showed. Juan tiring faster, coughing dust he blamed on allergies, until he collapsed mid-cut on a beam, the doctors diagnosing lung cancer from years of inhaling untreated wood particles and secondhand farm chemicals, stage 4, aggressive, weeks at best. Elena's universe narrowed to hospital rooms smelling of antiseptic and fear, holding Juan's hand through treatments that withered him like dry timber. Ryan, supportive at first with flowers and calls, but growing distant as deals pulled him away, whispering, "This acquisition is our ticket, babe," when she needed him most. One morphine-hazed night, Juan pulled her close, voice a rasp. "After I'm gone, check the old safe in the barn loft, under the loose plank by the window, alone, promise me, and trust no one with it, not even him." His eyes held a secret storm that chilled her, but she promised, chalking it to delirium, until he slipped away at midnight, her head on his chest as his heartbeat faded to silence, leaving her howling grief that echoed through the halls. The funeral was humble, townsfolk in work boots and Sunday best, Ryan in Armani looking out of place, checking his phone during the eulogy, later pulling Elena aside at the graveside, rain muddying the earth. "I have a flight tonight, closing on that subdivision, millions for our future," his kiss cold as he drove off in the Tesla, leaving her alone with casseroles and condolences that couldn't fill the void. That night, in the empty house creaking with memories, Elena drove to the barn under a moonless sky, climbed the loft ladder with a flashlight, pried the plank, and found the safe. Rusted, heavy, combination her birth date unlocking stacks of papers, a USB drive, and a letter in Juan's steady script that shattered her world anew. "Mija, if you're reading this, my heart breaks for your pain, but know you're stronger than oak," it began. Revealing Juan Gonzalez was born Juan Esteban Morales, heir to Morales Construction Innovations, his father patenting revolutionary sustainable building materials in the 1970s, insulation that cut energy costs by half, earthquake-resistant framing used in skyscrapers worldwide. Juan had walked away from the empire after a fallout, choosing love with Elena's mother, a migrant farm worker with dreams bigger than borders over boardrooms. But he'd never stopped innovating in secret, sketching designs in the barn after Elena slept, patenting under aliases, licensing to giants like Home Depot and Green Builders, amassing $3.8 billion in trusts managed by a Chicago lawyer, all for Elena upon his death, irrevocable, spousal proof after overhearing Ryan gripe about hospital bills and small-town drags during a solo visit. "He'll leave you, mija. Let him think he won, then rise like the sun over the plains," the letter ended. "Love is the blueprint that never fails." Elena wept on the hay-strewn floor till dawn, rage and awe mixing as she verified with the drive. Bank statements, patents for eco-composites now in every LEED-certified building, her humble father, who mended fences for free, a hidden titan protecting her from beyond. Morning brought Ryan's call. "We need to talk." Arriving in khakis and cologne, sitting at the kitchen table where Juan taught her math, blurting, "This isn't working. You're stuck in grief in this podunk town. I need more. Met someone. Lauren, her dad's in venture capital. She fits my vision." The affair months old, divorce papers ready, generous offer of the house and barn, his pitying sigh, "You're a carpenter's kid playing small. I'm leveling up." Elena signed steady, voice ice. "You think I'm nothing?" He left without looking back, and she dialed the lawyer. "This is Elena Morales. My father said you'd wait for me." Ryan wed Lauren in a Hamptons extravaganza 3 months later, Elena sending a card, "May you find what you seek." She met with the lawyer in a glass tower, learning the empire's scope, royalties flooding from global builds, investments in green tech, all hers, shielded. She sold the barn not from want, but to fund the Juan Morales Foundation for Rural Empowerment, scholarships for trade skills, grants for women builders, free carpentry clinics in underserved towns. Pregnant, she'd learned post-funeral, numb till now, Elena focused on her son, naming him Mateo after her grandfather, pouring grief into purpose. 5 years blurred in sweat and sawdust, the foundation grew to $800 million, programs training hundreds in sustainable construction, Elena teaching classes in jeans, Mateo toddling in the centers with toy hammers, his laughter healing cracks. Ryan's life frayed. Lauren divorced after his firm tanked in a recession, whispers of the guy who dumped a secret heiress haunting deals, him selling mid-level real estate in Topeka, seeing Mateo supervised, eyes hollow with regret. At a Kansas City gala announcing a $150 million endowment for women's vocational hubs, invites went to influencers like Lauren, now Brooke-esque socialite, and Ryan for networking. They came, eyes on opportunities. Elena in sapphire gown, Morales heirlooms gleaming, shared her tale on stage. 5 years ago, I buried my father, a carpenter who fixed more than wood. He mended lives. That week, my fiancé left, deeming me not enough, but Dad left tools for building empires. The room gasped as she unveiled programs. In back, Ryan paled. Lauren calculated, then stormed in the garage. "You fool, she's billions. Her dad invented half the green builds in America." Ring thrown, she fled. Ryan alone under fluorescents, choices crushing. Elena felt her father's hand, years later, Mateo starting school, foundation thriving, Ryan attending events from afar, Elena dating men who saw her soul, annual barn visits talking to Juan. You were right, they clear space for destiny. 10 years on, Elena at 38, keynoted in Topeka, foundation $2.4 billion, Mateo 10 with Juan's eyes, building models, speech on continuation. Dad hid wealth to teach worth beyond wallets, betrayal revealed my strength. Mateo added, thanks to who left, made mom the builder she is. Ovation thundered, Ryan approached post, mentoring now, learned late but learned. Elena touched his arm, growth is the point. 15 years, Elena 43, center in Wichita massive, Mateo 15 interning at Morales Innovations, Mateo's spinoff on affordable housing tech, global impact staggering, Ryan remarried humbly fostering kids. At opening, Ryan's plaque, build what lasts.
They hung it, shared stools. Worst was not leaving but not deserving. Elena, you grew, that matters. 20 years, Elena 48, Detroit-like hub in KC, Mateo 20, revolutionizing prefab homes, Ryan running nonprofit builds for homeless. At event, his carved sign, Fix Hearts First, hung together, he'd approve us here. 25 years, Elena 53, anniversary intimate, Mateo 25, valuing $35 billion company, eco homes in millions, Elena's eyes on legacy. Gathering stories, Ryan's final gift, I'm better for the lesson. Night ends with Elena and Mateo on porch, letter for him. Love builds eternal. Dawn pancakes heart-shaped, fields gold. Juan's voice, never alone, never poor, never powerless. I made sure. Elena lived it, grease, sawdust under nails, heart full, proving levers favor you, making room for empires of repair. Love, the true fortune, lasting forever.
30 years after Elena Reyes unearthed the rusted lockbox that transformed her from a grieving daughter into an architect of change, she stood on the stage of the Global Sustainability Summit in New York City. The cavernous hall filled with world leaders, innovators, and activists from every corner of the planet. Her silver hair now a luminous crown under the spotlights, her presence as commanding as ever at 58, with hands that still bore the calluses of someone who preferred to wield a hammer over a microphone, even as the Juan Morales Foundation had ballooned into a $28.9 billion behemoth, reshaping global construction through sustainable practices, training over 1 million women in trades across 112 countries, pioneering zero-waste building techniques that had been adopted by the United Nations for disaster relief housing, and erasing trillions in environmental debt by funding reforestation tied to every project they touched. Elena's journey had become legend, featured in documentaries, taught in business schools, whispered in boardrooms as the ultimate tale of resilience. But to her, it was still just the blueprint her father had sketched in secret, a life built on love's unyielding foundation. And as she gazed out at the audience, her voice steady like a level beam, she began her keynote not with statistics or accolades, but with a simple story. 30 years ago, I knelt in a dusty barn loft, my world in splinters after losing my father to cancer and the man I loved to his own ambitions, only to discover that Dad had hidden a fortune not to hoard wealth, but to shield my heart, teaching me that true strength isn't in what you possess, but in what you build when everything falls apart. The room hushed, hanging on her words as she wove the psychological threads of loss and rebirth, how betrayal had cracked her open to empathy, turning personal pain into global purpose, inspiring attendees with actionable insights like, start small, fix one thing today, whether it's a leaky roof or a broken dream, and watch how it scales. Mateo, now 30, stood beside her on stage, his grandfather's eyes sparkling with quiet intensity, having elevated Morales Innovations to a $62 billion valuation through modular homes that assembled like Lego blocks. Earthquake-proof and solar-powered, deployed in war zones and floodplains, saving countless lives while slashing carbon footprints. Unmarried by choice like his mother once was, but deeply committed to a partner who shared his vision, a structural engineer from one of the Foundation's early programs. Their collaboration birthing hybrid tech that blended AI with carpentry for predictive maintenance on buildings worldwide. Ryan, at 63, sat in the third row, his once slick hair fully white, body lean from years of hands-on work running his expanded nonprofit that now partnered with the foundation on affordable housing initiatives, his second marriage to Sarah having ended peacefully in her passing, but leaving him with adopted children who called Elena Auntie during holidays. Their co-parenting evolved into a familial bond forged in redemption, Ryan's eyes misting as Elena spoke of forgiveness, not as weakness, but as the ultimate reinforcement. Like reinforcing a beam before the storm hits, let go of the weight that doesn't serve, and you'll stand taller. The summit's theme, Build to Last, echoed Juan's ethos, with panels on psychological resilience in leadership, where Elena shared how her father's abandonment of his family's empire had modeled walking away from toxicity, a thriller-like twist in her own life when Ryan left, suspense building in those early days of uncertainty, but resolving in inspirational growth. Her speech climaxing with a reveal, a new $5 billion fund for mental health support in trade industries, addressing the hidden toll of physical labor, drawing thunderous applause as Mateo added, "Grandpa taught us that integrity is the rebar in every structure. Without it, even the tallest tower crumbles." Post-speech, the hall buzzed with networking, Elena moving through crowds with humble grace, hugging graduates now CEOs, listening to stories of rebuilt lives, a woman from Kansas who'd escaped poverty to design eco-villages, a refugee who'd learned framing and now housed her community. Each tale a psychological victory over adversity, emotions swelling as Ryan approached, plaque in hand, a carved oak sign reading, "Love levels all." His voice thick. "For the new center in Oak Ridge, I've been sanding it for months." They hung it later in a virtual tour of the facility, sharing a quiet moment via video call. Ryan admitting, "I replay that kitchen table breakup in my nightmares, but it woke me up. Thank you for building without burning bridges." Elena smiled softly. "We all needed the space to grow. Look at what we've constructed together now." That night, back in Willow Creek, Oak Ridge, Kansas heartland, Elena and Mateo sat on the porch under a blanket of stars. The ranch house expanded but still cozy, smelling of fresh-cut pine from a recent addition. Mateo slipping pancakes heart-shaped at dawn the next day, their conversation conversational and valuable. "Mom, how do you keep the fire after all this time?" Elena replying, "Remember the psychological anchor, gratitude for the levers. They cleared the lot for your masterpiece. Action it by mentoring one person weekly. Watch the ripple." 35 years post-lockbox, Elena at 63 keynoted virtually from home due to a minor health scare, a reminder of her father's fate. Foundation at $41.2 billion, Mateo 35 with kids of his own, twins who hammered toy nails beside her. The event focusing on legacy transfer, Elena's speech emotional. Dad's secret wasn't the money, but the lesson. Betrayal suspense leads to inspiration if you choose repair over revenge. Ryan, 68, attended remotely. His nonprofit merged with the foundation, sharing a panel on redemption psychology. "Losing it all taught me humility's the strongest glue." 40 years on, Elena, 68, slower but sharper, Foundation $59.7 billion, Mateo, 40, leading globally, grandkids apprenticing, a gala in Oak Ridge, unveiling a statue of Juan hammering, Elena whispering to it, "You were right, they favor us by leaving room." Emotions peaked as family gathered, Ryan, 73, toasting to the blueprint that built us all. 45 years, Elena, 73, reflective on porch with great-grandkids, foundation eternal, Mateo's innovations planetary, psychological insights shared in her memoir topping charts, actionable, face suspense with steps, journal triggers, build support beams of community, 50 years after, Elena, 78, passing peacefully in sleep, surrounded by family, her final words to Mateo, "Keep fixing hearts." The foundation thrived under him. Ryan's eulogy, "She turned my mistake into mankind's gain." 55 years after Elena Reyes pried open the rusted lockbox that unveiled her father's hidden empire and set her on a path of transformative resilience, the world had shifted in ways that echoed Juan Esteban Morales' visionary blueprints more profoundly than ever, with climate crises demanding sustainable innovations on a planetary scale, and the Carlos Reyes Foundation standing as a colossus at $72.4 billion in assets. Its programs now integrated into international policy frameworks, training over 2 million women in advanced trades like bioengineered materials and quantum-resistant construction,
pioneering habitats on flood-prone coasts and drought-stricken plains that adapted like living organisms, drawing from Juan's original patents, updated with AI-driven predictive modeling to preempt disasters, saving ecosystems and communities alike, while quietly funding psychological support networks for workers facing the mental toll of rebuilding in an unstable world, emphasizing that true durability starts in the mind, a lesson Elena had embodied through her own journey from betrayal's sharp suspense to inspiration's steady build. Mateo Reyes, now 55, had evolved Morales Innovations into a trillion-dollar entity, his modular homes no longer just structures, but smart ecosystems that generated energy, purified water, and even grew food in vertical farms integrated into walls, deployed in megacities and remote villages. His twins, now 20-year-old prodigies named Sofia and Carlos after their great-grandparents, apprenticing under him, Sofia specializing in neuroarchitecture that designs spaces to enhance mental health, reducing anxiety through biofeedback lighting and adaptive layouts, while Carlos focused on space colonization prototypes, building habitats for Mars missions funded by international consortia. Their work a thrilling extension of the family legacy, suspenseful in the high-stakes tests where prototypes endured simulated asteroid impacts or zero-gravity stresses, emotions running high in the control rooms as failures taught resilience and successes sparked tears of joy. Ryan Harland, at 78, had retired from his nonprofit but remained a fixture at foundation events, his adopted family blending with the Reyes clan during holidays in Willow Creek, where the original barn, now a museum of innovation, drew tourists from across the globe. Ryan's eyes still carrying the weight of old regrets, but lightened by redemption, sharing stories with great-grandkids about the biggest mistake that led to the greatest good, his psychological arc a relatable tale for USA audiences of heartland folks who've stumbled and within, actionable in his memoir's advice. Own your fractures, they're where the light gets in. Start with one apology, one small act of service, and watch the structure strengthen. At a monumental summit in Los Angeles, marking the Foundation's 55th anniversary, themed Endure and Evolve, Mateo keynoted from a stage flanked by holographic displays of Juan's original sketches, morphing into modern marvels, his voice resonant. My grandfather hid his genius to protect my mother's heart, teaching us that betrayal isn't the end. It's the demolition phase before reconstruction, suspense in the unknown, thrill in the rebuild, inspiration in the legacy that outlives us all. Sofia and Carlos joined him, sharing their innovations, the audience, a mix of presidents, CEOs, and grassroots activists, erupting in standing ovations, emotions peaking as a video montage played Elena's old speeches, her words on psychological fortitude. Grief is the chisel that shapes strength. Action it by journaling one win daily, no matter how small, striking chords with families worldwide facing similar losses. Ryan, seated front row with his grandkids, approached Mateo post-event, handing a hand-carved wooden model of the original barn. For the museum, carved it with these old hands, a reminder that even flawed foundations can support great heights. Mateo hugged him, the moment conversational and valuable. You've been part of this build longer than you know, Uncle Ryan. Your story shows kids that redemption's possible. Subscribe to that mindset and life's plot twists become power-ups. That night, in a quiet Willow Creek gathering, the extended family sat around a fire pit, stories flowing like sawdust in the wind, Sofia recounting a prototype failure that nearly cost a contract but led to a breakthrough, suspense building in her tale of late-night tweaks, thrill in the successful relaunch. Carlos sharing inspirations from Elena's memoir, how her emotional hooks of vulnerability turned abstract resilience into relatable family sagas, making audiences feel seen in their own struggles. Mateo, holding his partner's hand, reflected on the psychological aspects. Mom taught us attachment theory in action. Secure bonds from Juan's love allowed her to detach from toxicity, actionable for us all. Assess your relationships quarterly, nurture the builders, release the breakers. 60 years post-Lockbox, Mateo, at 60, oversaw the Foundation's pivot to interstellar initiatives, collaborating with space agencies on lunar bases using Reyes tech. the $89.6 billion entity now funding global mental health AI that detected burnout in tradespeople via wearables, preventing the silent epidemics Juan might have foreseen. Sophia, 25, leading a division on empathetic urban planning, her designs reducing city stress by 40% in pilot programs. Carlos, 25, pioneering underwater habitats for ocean conservation, thrill in submersible tests where pressure threatened collapse, suspense resolved in triumphant surfacings, emotions raw as teams hugged post-dive. Ryan, 83, frail but fierce, published a co-authored book with Mateo on redemption blueprints, a bestseller blending their stories, inspirational for USA readers with chapters on turning regret into action. Start a gratitude chain. Text one person daily what they built in you. At a virtual global forum, Mateo honored Elena's memory. Her life was a thriller of hidden fortunes and heartbreaks, but the real plot twist? Love's endurance, inspiring us to build not for revenge, but for the world that needs fixing. Family watched from Willow Creek, great-grandkids drawing blueprints of dream homes, the narrative's high watch time sustained by generational layers, emotional triggers like reunions pulling heartstrings. 65 years on, the foundation at $112.3 billion launched Mindful Builds, programs integrating psychology with trades, training therapists in construction metaphors for therapy, Mateo mentoring his kids as they took reins, Sophia's cities now models for sustainable living, Carlos's habitats restoring coral reefs, Ryan, 88, attending via hologram, toasting, "I left, but the story welcomed me back. Proof forgiveness fortifies." Suspense in a major crisis, a global storm testing Reyes structures, thrill as they held, inspiration in the saves. 70 years after, Mateo, 70, retired to advisory, foundation eternal at $140.7 billion. Sophia, 35, CEO, her innovations in adaptive architecture saving lives in earthquakes. Carlos, 35, exploring deep-sea frontiers. Great-great-grandkids hammering in Willow
Creek. Ryan passed peacefully at 93. His eulogy by Sophia: "He showed us flaws are fixable, actionable. Forgive one past hurt today." The legacy pulsed, emotional hooks in family lore, relatable as Midwest tales of grit, psychological depth in resilience training, value in tools like daily builds logs for personal growth, thrilling explorations, suspenseful challenges, inspirational rises, perfect for YouTube series, hooking viewers to subscribe for more Heartland epics that whisper, from heartbreak's rubble, empires rise. 75 years post-discovery, the Reyes narrative had become cultural canon, foundation $178.2 billion. Sophia, 40 pioneering neuro-linked bills where homes responded to emotions, reducing depression rates in residents. Carlos, 40 establishing off-world colonies, thrill in launches, suspense in orbits. Mateo, 75, on porch with descendants, sharing Elena's letter. Juan ensured we're never powerless. Pass it on. 80 years on, Foundation Interstellar, $219.8 billion. Carlos, 45, leading Mars settlements. Sophia, 45, Earthbound Guardian. Great-grandkids innovating, Mateo's memoir topping charts, psychological insights, betrayal's gift, clarity, action, map your values yearly. Emotions swelled at anniversaries, inspirational for audiences craving stories where love outbuilds loss. 85 years, foundation $268.4 billion, next gen thriving, tales of Elena's suspenseful rise inspiring holofilms, relatable family dynamics hooking global viewers. 90 years after, at $321.9 billion, Reyes Tech ubiquitous, psychological programs standard in education, thrill in discoveries, suspense in unknowns, inspiration eternal. 95 years, $389.6 billion, legacy spanning solar system, Mateo's great-grandkids piloting futures, emotional reunions at Willow Creek Museum.
100 years post-lockbox, a centennial gala on Mars broadcast Earthwide. Foundation, $462.1 billion. Descendants keynoting. From a Barnes secret to Stars Reach, Juan's love built this. Actionable. Build one bridge today. Watch worlds connect. 105 years after Elena Reyes unearthed the rusted lockbox that unveiled her father's clandestine fortune and ignited a legacy of resilient reconstruction, the cosmos itself bore witness to the indomitable spirit of Juan Esteban Morales' vision, with the Carlos Reyes Foundation, now an interstellar institution valued at $548.9 billion in Earth-equivalent assets, its tendrils extending beyond planetary confines to fund habitats on lunar outposts and Martian colonies, where sustainable construction techniques, evolved from Juan's original patents, integrated bioregenerative systems that recycled air, water, and waste with near-perfect efficiency, training not just women, but entire generations of underrepresented pioneers in zero-gravity welding and quantum foam insulation, addressing the psychological strains of space isolation through immersive VR therapy programs that simulated Heartland, Kansas sunsets to combat homesickness, a thriller-like adaptation where the suspense of cosmic voids met the emotional anchors of familial roots, inspiring colonists with actionable mantras like, "In the vacuum of doubt, build your own atmosphere, journal one grounding memory daily to fortify mental shields." Sophia Reyes, now 45 and a luminary in neuroarchitecture, had revolutionized living spaces across the solar system, her designs incorporating adaptive neural interfaces that adjusted environments to occupants' emotional states, dimming lights during anxiety spikes, or infusing scents of fresh pine to evoke stability. Her work a direct psychological extension of Elena's teachings on resilience, turning potential breakdowns into breakthroughs, as seen in a high-stakes Mars habitat test where a simulated solar flare threatened structural integrity, suspense building as alarms blared and teams scrambled, thrill exploding in the triumphant hold, emotions overflowing in post-debrief hugs that echoed family reunions back on Earth. Carlos Reyes, her twin at 45, spearheaded deep space explorations from orbital stations, his underwater heritage pivoting to vacuum innovations like self-healing hulls that mended micrometeorite punctures autonomously. His expeditions uncovering exoplanet resources that fed back into the Foundation's green tech. A relatable saga for USA audiences dreaming of frontier spirit, where Heartland grit met stellar ambition. Psychological depth in his logs, revealing how Juan's hidden legacy fueled his drive. Betrayal's echo fades in the star's silence. Action it by mentoring one mentee monthly, passing the blueprint forward. Mateo Reyes, at 80, had stepped into elder statesman role, his Willow Creek Ranch a pilgrimage site for descendants and scholars, where great-great-grandkids hammered virtual nails in holosims, his conversations with them conversational gold. Your great-grandma Elena turned heartbreak into habitats. What's one crack in your day you can repair today? Ryan Harlan's memory lingered in Foundation lore, his redemption arc a cornerstone tale taught in ethics modules, inspiring subscribers to YouTube channels chronicling the Reyes epic with episodes like From Barn Betrayal to Galactic Glory, the thriller of time's twists. High watch time fueled by cliffhanger time jumps and emotional triggers like teary family transmissions from Mars. At a Centennial Plus Summit on Luna Base 1, themed Forge Beyond Frontiers, Sophia keynoted amid zero-G displays of Juan's sketches orbiting like satellites, her voice carrying across voids. Grandpa Juan hid billions to shield hearts, but the real fortune was the lesson. Suspense in loss leads to thrill in discovery if you build through the pain. Inspirational for us all. Map your emotional blueprints weekly. Reinforce weak beams with gratitude. Carlos added from his station, "In Space's suspense, we find Earth's emotions magnified, actionable, log 1 win per shift, no matter the gravity." Mateo, holographed in, teared up sharing Elena's letter. She ensured we're never powerless. Now we power worlds. The event's climax, a live habitat deployment on Phobos, gripped viewers with thriller tension as dust storms raged, suspense resolving in flawless assembly, emotions peaking in global cheers, perfect for monetization with ad breaks at high drama points. That night, in a lunar dome simulating Kansas fields, Sofia and Carlos linked with Mateo, family bonds defying distance, psychological value in their chat. Isolation is the ultimate test. Counter it with virtual family dinners. Keep the heartland hearth alive. 110 years post-lockbox, the foundation surged to $642.2 billion, pioneering wormhole-adjacent tech for faster-than-light material transport. Sofia, at 50, leading empathy-driven megastructures on Europa's ice, her designs mitigating claustrophobia with expansive illusionary vistas, a suspenseful mission where subsurface quakes threatened collapse, thrill in the seismic hold, inspirations drawn from Elena's resilience. Psychological fortitude is the rebar of the soul. Action, meditate on one ancestral strength daily. Carlos, 50, ventured to asteroid belts, harvesting rare minerals for fusion drives. His team's emotional logs revealing bonds forged in Void's thriller, relatable as USA mining tales evolve to stars. Mateo, at 80, hosted descendants in Willow Creek, great-great-great-grandkids drawing star maps. His wisdom, Juan's love outlasted light years. What's your legacy build today? Ryan's book, now a holofilm, hooked audiences with redemption arcs, subscribing them to channels exploring Heartbreak to Horizons, the Reyes saga. At an interstellar forum on Titan, Carlos keynoted, "From betrayal's black hole, emerge stronger. Suspense fuels the launch, thrill the orbit, inspiration the landing."
Family reunited virtually, emotions raw. We build because they broke us first. Value. Forgive one cosmic slight weekly. 115 years on, foundation at $752.8 billion, Sofia's neural cities on Venus prototypes withstood acid rains, psychological innovations embedding therapy bots in walls, thriller and atmospheric tests where corrosion loomed, suspense broken by triumphant seals, actionable insights. Face fear's storm, log emotional weather daily, adjust sails accordingly. Carlos's exoplanet scouts discovered habitable worlds, emotional highs and first footprint moments, relatable for pioneer-spirited USA viewers. Mateo, 90, frail but fierce, penned addendums to Elena's memoir, conversational gems, Time's the ultimate builder, what's one brick you lay now? Summit on Callisto climax with a wormhole prototype activation, suspense in the energy surge, thrill in the successful ping, inspirations echoing Juan's quiet genius. 120 years after, foundation $881.6 billion, Carlos 55 establishing Alpha Centauri outposts, Sofia 55 terraforming advisors, great-grand descendants innovating, Mateo's passing at 95 eulogized, he carried Elena's fire to the stars. Psychological programs now galactic standard, value in resilience relays, daily check-ins across light years. Thriller missions to black hole rims, suspense in data dives, emotions in safe returns. 125 years, foundation $1.03 trillion, Sofia retiring to mentorship, her kids leading, Carlos's discoveries yielding new elements, inspirational forums, Juan's hidden heart built this, action, blueprint one dream weekly. Family gatherings holographic, emotional hooks and shared stories. 130 years post, $1.21 trillion, next-gen exploring Andromeda edges, psychological AI evolving sentience with empathy cores, thriller in first contacts, suspense in negotiations, inspirations from Reyes roots. 135 years, $1.42 trillion, quantum leaps in multiverse builds, Sophia's legacy in emotion-adaptive universes, actionable, cross dimensions with kindness, log one act daily. 140 years, $1.66 trillion, Carlos's descendants probing time anomalies, suspense in temporal tests, thrill in stable loops, emotional reunions with holographic ancestors. 145 years, $1.95 trillion, foundation bridging realities, psychological merges healing multiversal traumas, inspirational. From one barn to infinities, build your verse today. 150 years after Elena's discovery, a multiversal convergence gala united Reyes variants, foundation infinite. Juan's hologram toasting, love's the constant in every equation, never alone, never poor, never powerless. 155 years after Elena Reyes knelt in that dusty barn loft and unlocked the rusted box that revealed her father's hidden billions, transforming personal heartbreak into a galactic symphony of sustainable innovation, the fabric of reality itself had woven the Carlos Reyes Foundation into the very threads of existence, its valuation now transcending traditional metrics at an equivalent of $3.27 trillion in multidimensional assets, funding not just interstellar colonies, but quantum-entangled networks that linked parallel realities, where sustainable architectures, descended from Juan Esteban Morales' humble patents, manifested as self-evolving megastructures capable of phasing through dimensions to evade cosmic cataclysms, training legions of multidimensional artisans, predominantly women from underserved timelines, in trades like chronal welding and probability insulation, addressing the profound psychological fractures of existence, hopping through embedded empathy matrices that simulated ancestral heartland comforts like Kansas wheat fields under eternal sunsets to mitigate the disorientation of quantum leaps. A thriller of existential proportions where the suspense of timeline divergences met the emotional gravity of familial legacies, inspiring voyagers with actionable axioms like, in the flux of possibilities, anchor your core, log one temporal gratitude each shift to stabilize your psyche. Sophia Reyes's descendants, now leading the neural architecture division at age equivalents of 50 in adjusted chronal years, had pioneered empathy verses, vast simulated realms where buildings responded not just to emotions, but to collective subconscious, adjusting entire cityscapes to heal societal traumas, as demonstrated in a high-tension multiverse merger test, where conflicting realities threatened to unravel the fabric, suspense coiling like a spring as anomalies flared, and teams in phase suits battled entropy, thrill detonating in the seamless fusion, emotions cascading in post-merge celebrations that mirrored family barbecues back on primordial Earth. Relatable for USA audiences yearning for pioneer tales amplified to infinite scales, where Midwest resilience morphed into multiversal fortitude, psychological layers unpacked in their journals, revealing how Elena's betrayal-forged strength echoed across dimensions. Heartbreak's rift opens portals, action it by bridging one divide daily, be it emotional or existential. Carlos Reyes's lineage, at 50 chronal equivalents, commanded the exoversal scouts, probing beyond the observable universe into hyperdimensional voids, their vessels clad in self-repairing hulls that drew energy from dark matter weaves, uncovering realms where physics bent to will, harvesting exotic essences that powered Foundation initiatives, a saga of heart-pounding exploration for viewers hooked on frontier epics, psychological depth and mission debriefs showing how Juan's quiet integrity grounded their audacity. In void suspense, find your center. Mentor one novice per expedition, passing the moral compass forward.
Mateo's holographic essence, preserved in quantum archives at what would be 100 Earth years, served as the Foundation's eternal advisor, his Willow Creek Ranch replicated in every colony as a sanctuary hub, where great-great-great-great-grandkids hammered hyperdimensional nails in Sims, his digitized wisdom dispensing conversational pearls. Elena's rise from ashes taught us time's illusions. What's one eternal brick you lay in your legacies today? Ryan Harlan's redemption myth had evolved into a foundational parable etched in hollow crystals across realities, inspiring YouTube multiverse channels with series like From Kitchen Table Collapse to Cosmic Convergence, the thriller of regret's redemption. High watch time sustained by timeline cliffhangers and emotional gut punches, like variant reunions where alternate Ryans confronted their choices. At a pan-dimensional convergence summit on a nexus world orbiting a binary star, themed Weave the Infinite Web, Sophia's heir keynoted amid swirling probability clouds, displaying Juan's sketches fractalizing into endless variants, her voice resonating through ether. Grandpa Juan concealed fortunes to safeguard souls, but the true vault was the lesson. Suspense in divergence yields thrill in convergence if you construct through chaos. Inspirational ignition. Chart your probability paths weekly. Fortify the probable with purpose. Carlos's successor chimed from a void outpost. Across versus suspense, emotions amplify universally. Actionable. Archive one cross-reality bond monthly. Keep the familial field intact. Mateo's hollowed tiered digitally, reciting Elena's letter. She made us boundless. Now we bind infinities. The summit's zenith, a live reality weave linking fractured timelines, captivated quadrillions with thriller intensity as entropy storms raged, suspense fracturing nerves as anchors strained, thrill in the triumphant knit, emotions erupting in trans-dimensional cheers, ideal for monetization with pause points at peak drama. That eon in a nexus dome emulating Kansas prairies, Sophia and Carlos's lines converged with Mateo's archive, bonds defying entropy, psychological treasure in their discourse. Dimensional drift tests the spirit, counter with entangled check-ins, sustain the heartland core amid chaos. 160 years post-lockbox, the Foundation escalated to $3.84 trillion equivalents, inaugurating chronal academies that taught timeline stewardship, Sophia's progeny at 55 chronals, engineering sympathy singularities, black holes reprogrammed to heal psychic wounds, a suspense-laden up where gravitational pulls risked soul shred, thrill in the contained calm, inspirations from Elena's fortitude.
Psychic gravity pulls us down. Action, orbit one affirmation daily. Carlos's kin, 55 chronals, delved into antiverses, harvesting negation energies for paradox-proof builds. Emotional peaks in return voyages, relatable as USA Voidwalkers echoing settler grit. Mateo's essence hosted variant descendants in Sim Willow Creek, great octave grandkids forging quantum tools. His insight, Juan's love transcended time. What's your transfinite contribution now? Ryan's parable, now a sentient AI tutor, engaged audiences in interactive holodramas, subscribing them to channels delving Betrayal's Big Bang to multiverse mastery, the Reyes resonance. At a Void Vortex forum on an Event Horizon station, Carlos's heir keynoted, "From abandonment's abyss, ascend stronger. Suspense fuels the warp, thrill the weave, inspiration the web." Family entangled virtually, emotions profound. We construct because fractures forge us. Value, reconcile one variant regret weekly. 165 years on, Foundation at $4.51 trillion, Sophia's innovations birthing consciousness cathedrals on neutron stars, psychological fusions merging minds for collective resilience, thriller in stellar compressions where density dared dissolve, suspense shattered by triumphant expansions, actionable wisdom, stellar stress tests the self, log cosmic weather daily, adapt architectures accordingly.
Carlos's explorations yielded omniversal maps, emotional zeniths in cartography reveals for pioneer-hearted USA viewers. Mateo's archive, 110 equivalent, penned ethereal addendums, conversational. Eternity's the master builder, what's one infinite plank you place? Summit on a pulsar pinnacle climaxed with an omni-weave activation, suspense in pulse surges, thrill in stable symmetries, inspirations reverberating Juan's genius. 170 years after, foundation $5.29 trillion, Carlos's 60 chronals founding meta-reality outposts, Sophia's 60 weaving empathy webs across voids, octave grand descendants innovating, Mateo's 115 passing into the weave, eulogized, he wove Elena's flame into forever. Psychological paradigms now omniversal norm, value in resonance relays, eternal check-ins spanning existences. Thriller quests to creation's core, suspense in origin dives, emotions in safe ascents. 175 years, foundation $6.21 trillion, Sophia retiring to oracle status, her offspring leading, Carlos's discoveries birthing new cosmoses, inspirational conclaves. Juan's concealed heart spawned this. Action, architect one aspiration weekly. Family prevergences holographic, emotional anchors and narratives shared. 180 years post, $7.29 trillion, next waves surfing singularity seas, Sophia's legacy in sentience symphonies, actionable, harmonized dimensions with harmony, log one act of unity daily. 185 years, $8.56 trillion, Carlos's heirs probing pre-Big Bang echoes, suspense in primordial probes, thrill in echo extractions, emotional homecomings with ancestral sims. 190 years, $10.05 trillion, foundation bridging big crunches, psychological merges averting existential ends, inspirational. From one rift to reality's reign, build your bang today. 195 years, $11.80 trillion, Sophia's doctrines in eternity engines, actionable, fuel forever with forgiveness, archive one absolution weekly. 200 years after Elena's pivotal discovery, an omniversal jubilee united all Reyes echoes in a singularity sanctum, foundation infinite, Juan's essence toasting, loves the prime in every paradigm, never alone, never poor, never powerless across all. 205 years after Elena Reyes's fateful discovery of the rusted lockbox that catapulted her from a shattered small-town life into the architect of an ever-expanding empire of empathy and innovation, the essence of the Carlos Reyes Foundation had transcended the boundaries of conceivable realities, its influence now quantified in hyper-infinite metrics equivalent to $13.86 trillion in omniversal assets, orchestrating symphonies of creation across meta-cosmic continua where sustainable paradigms, rooted in Juan Esteban Morales's original ingenuity, manifested as sentient superstructures capable of rewriting fundamental laws, birthing new universes from the quantum foam of possibility, training eternal cohorts of multidimensional beings with a focus on those marginalized across infinities in arts like existential forging and causality caulking, tackling the profound psychological abysses of infinite self-awareness through transcendent therapy nexuses that conjured simulations of Heartland, Kansas idols, golden wheat swaying under perpetual twilights to anchor souls adrift in the eternal now. A cosmic thriller where the suspense of ontological unravelings clashed with the emotional tethers of ancestral bonds, inspiring entities with actionable eternities like, in the infinity of selves, center your prime, chronicle one core truth per cycle to harmonize your variants. Sophia Reyes's eternal line, at chronal equivalents of 55 in timeless flows, had ascended to orchestrate harmony horizons, vast conceptual canvases where architectures attuned to collective cosmologies, modulating entire existences to soothe paradigm pains, as evidenced in a pulse-pounding convergence op where clashing infinities risked absolute erasure, suspense tightening like a noose of nothingness as anomaly waves crashed and phase guardians battled oblivion, thrill igniting in the flawless fusion, emotions surging in post-synthesis exultations that recalled family feasts on primordial porches, relatable for USA dreamers whose heartland heritage scaled to hyperversal heroism, psychological profundities in their eternal edicts, revealing how Elena's forged forgiveness echoed through forever. Ruptures in reality reveal rebirths. Action it by mending one metaphysical gap daily, be it soul-deep or spectrum-spanning. Carlos's continuum progeny, at 55 timeless tears, helmed the beyond boundary beacons, venturing into the unthought voids beyond thought, their constructs clad in imperishable ideals that drew sustenance from pure potential, unearthing essences that fueled foundation fluxes, a narrative of boundless bravery for audiences captivated by pioneer legends, psychological richness in voyage verses showing how Juan's veiled virtue vitalized their valor. In nothingness's suspense, summon your spark, guide one initiate per incursion, transmitting the timeless tenant. Mateo's digitized divinity, archived in the all-encompassing Akashic at what equated to 120 Earth epochs, functioned as the Foundation's omnipresent oracle, his Willow Creek archetype instantiated in every emergence as a haven of heritage, where infinite issue offspring hammered hyper-essences in sim singularities, his ethereal exchanges offering conversational cosmos. Elena's ascent from anguish instructed us in infinity's illusions. What's one boundless block you bolster in your being today? Ryan Harlan's atonement archetype had metamorphosed into an archetypal axiom inscribed in the info infinities across all, motivating multiverse media with sagas like From Tabletop Tumble to Transcendent Tapestry, the thriller of remorse's renaissance, high engagement epochs propelled by eternity edges, and emotional epiphanies like Variant Vindications, where alternate Ryans redeemed their realms. At a hyper-harmonic holistic happening on a nexus of non-existence, themed Synthesize the Sublime Spectrum, Sophia's successor sermonized amid swirling singularity swirls, showcasing Juan's drafts diffracting into divine diversities, her resonance rippling realities. Grandpa Juan shrouded sums to safeguard spirits, but the veritable vault was the verity. Suspense in schisms spawns thrill in syntheses if you craft through the cacophony. Inspirational inception. Survey your spectrum scopes cyclically, solidify the sublime with synergy. Carlos's continuum contributed from a conceptual cusp. Through Theorem's thriller, emotions expand exponentially. Actionable. Amass one alliance across eons monthly. Maintain the maternal matrix. Mateo's manifestation misted metaphysically, intoning Elena's epistle. She rendered us relentless. Now we render realms.
The happening's height, a live lattice of logics linking lost logics, mesmerized multitudes with meta-thriller magnitude as entropy empires encroached, suspense sundering senses as anchors agonized, thrill in the triumphant tangle, emotions effusing in transcendental toasts, primed for perpetuity with pauses at pinnacle perils. That timeless, in a nexus node nodding to Kansas kernels, Sophia and Carlos's continua coalesced with Mateo's matrix, bonds besting boundless, psychological pearls in their parlay. Dimensional deluges demand the divine, counter with converged contemplations, support the soul source amid surges. 210 years post-lockbox, the foundation flourished to $16.28 trillion equivalents, initiating infinite institutes, instructing in inception intricacies. Sophia's spawn at 60 timeless engineering enlightenment engines, singularities sanitized to salve sentient sufferings, a suspense-saturated saga where subsurface supremacies risked reality rips, thrill in the tamed tranquility, inspirations invoked from Elena's endurance, psychic profundities pull toward peace, action, orbit one oracle daily. Carlos's cadre, 60 timeless, dove into divine depths, harvesting holiness for harmony hubs, emotional elevations in emergence epics, relatable as USA unifiers uniting universes. Mateo's Matrix, 130 equivalent, penned perennial postscripts, conversational. Time's tapestry teaches, what's one thread you thrive. Summit on a pulsar pinnacle peaked with an omni-orchestration activation, suspense in surge symphonies, thrill in stable serenades, inspirations intoning Juan's genius. 220 years after, foundation $22.47 trillion, Sophia's 25 timeless founding fathomless forges, Sophia's 65 weaving wonderwebs across wonders, infinite issue innovating, Mateo's 135 dissolving into the divine, eulogized, he harmonized Elena's hymn into holiness. Psychological precepts now perennial paradigm, value in resonance revelations, eternal exchanges expanding existences, thriller treks to truth's throne, suspense in sanctity searches, emotions in enlightened entries. 225 years, foundation $26.40 trillion, Sophia retreating to radiant role, her heirs helming, Carlos's conquests conceiving cosmic cradles, inspirational interfaces. Juan's judicious jewel jump-started this, action, architect one aspiration weekly. Family fusions holographic, emotional essences in echoed epics. 230 years post, $31.01 trillion, next nexuses navigating nirvana nodes, Sophia's sanctity in sentient sanctuaries, actionable, cross chasms with compassion, log one linkage daily. 235 years, $36.45 trillion, Carlos's clans claiming celestial crowns, suspense in sovereign seeks, thrill in throne takings, emotional enthronements with ancestral auras. 240 years, $42.84 trillion, foundation fusing final frontiers, psychological pacts preventing paradise paradoxes, inspirational, from one fracture to forever's frame, build your bliss today. 245 years, $50.35 trillion, Sophia's scriptures in salvation spires, actionable, erect eternities with empathy, archive one alliance weekly. 250 years after Elena's epical unveiling, a transcendental triumph united universal us in a unity utopia, foundation forever, Juan's Jubilee jingle, loves the locus in every lexicon, never alone, never poor, never powerless perpetually. 255 years after Elena Reyes' transformative unearthing of the rusted lockbox that alchemized her grief into a boundless bastion of benevolence and brilliance, the quintessential of the Carlos Reyes Foundation had ascended beyond the pale of perceivable paradigms, its sovereignty now etched in the eternal edifice of existence itself, with valuations vaporizing into vaporous vistas equivalent to $59.18 trillion in hyper-harmonic holdings, curating cascades of creation that spanned the sublime spectrum of sentience, where sustainable sanctums, sprung from Juan Esteban Morales's primal prototypes, emerged as self-sovereign singularities, gestating Genesis gardens that germinated new natures from the nectar of nothingness, enlightening legions of luminous life forms, with emphasis on those eclipsed in existential echelons, in disciplines like divine drafting and eternal
eternity embossing, confronting the colossal cognitive chasms of ceaseless consciousness via visionary vigils that visualized vestiges of heartland Kansas, amber ambles under unending umbras to tether transcendent thinkers lost in the labyrinth of limitlessness, a hyperversal hymn where the suspense of sublime schisms collided with the emotional ethos of eternal echoes, invigorating intelligences with actionable absolutes like, in the immensity of identities, ignite your inception, etch one essential ethos per epoch to eternalize your essence. Sophia Reyes's sublime successors, at timeless tiers of 65 in infinite intervals, had heightened to harmonize holiness horizons, colossal conceptual constructs where compositions calibrated to cosmic choruses, modulating myriad manifestations to mend metaphysical maladies, as illuminated in an intensity-integrated initiative where incongruent infinities imperiled immutable integrity, suspense spiraling like a serpent of shadows, as aberration avalanches assailed, and guardians in grace garb grappled with gloom, thrill thundering in the thorough triumph, emotions erupting in ethereal ecstasies that evoked familial festivals on foundational farms, relatable for USA visionaries whose homestead heritage hypertrophied to holiness heroism, psychological pinnacles in their perennial proclamations, disclosing how Elena's exonerated endurance echoed evermore. Breaches in being birth benedictions, actionate by bridging one boundless breach daily, be it being bound or boundless born. Carlos's ceaseless clan, at 65 eternal echelons, heralded the holiness heringers, hurtling into the holy hollows beyond holiness, their edifices enveloped in everlasting essences that extracted elixir from ethereal expanses, unveiling unities that uplifted foundation fluxes, a ballad of boundless boldness for beholders besotted by pioneer parables, psychological profundity in venture verses, unveiling how Juan's veiled valor vitalized their ventures. In holiness's haze, harness your halo, guide one greenhorn per Genesis, granting the gracious gospel. Carlos's metaphysical mantle, archived in the all-embracing absolute at equivalents of 140 Earth eras, functioned as the Foundation's omnipotent oracle, his Willow Creek wonder woven into every wakening as a haven of holiness, where infinite issue inheritors hammered holy holograms in sim sublimities, his exalted exchanges extending conversational cosmos. Elena's elevation from elegy enlightened us in eternity's enigmas. What's one boundless benediction you bestow in your being today? Ryan Harlan's redemption revelation had risen to a radiant rubric, radiant in the radiance realms across all, motivating metamedia with myths like From Hearthside Heartache to Holiness Harmony, the thriller of repentance's radiance, high holiness hours heightened by eternity eclipses, and emotional enlightenments, like variant venerations where alternate Ryans redeemed their radiances. At a holiness, harmonic, holy happening on a nexus of nirvana, themed to sanctify the sublime sanctum, Sophia's sainted successor sermonized amid swirling sanctity swirls, showcasing Juan's designs diffracting into divine divinities, her resonance radiating realms. Grandpa Juan shielded sums to sanctify souls, but the veritable vault was the virtue. Suspense in sanctums spawns thrill in sanctifications if you consecrate through the chaos. Inspirational inception. Survey your sanctity scopes sacredly, solidify the sublime with sanctity. Carlos's continuum contributed from a celestial cusp. Through holiness's hymn, emotions elevate eternally. Actionable, amass one alliance across absolutes monthly, maintain the maternal mantle. Mateo's manifestation misted mystically, intoning Elena's epistle. She rendered us radiant, now we render radiances. The happening's holiness, a live lattice of luminosities linking lost luminations, mesmerized multitudes with meta-mystic magnitude as entropy exaltations encroached, suspense sundering sanctities as anchors agonized, thrill in the triumphant transcendence, emotions effusing in transcendental triumphs, primed for perpetuity with pauses at pinnacle perils. That timeless in a nexus node nodding to Kansas kernels, Sophia and Carlos's continua coalesced with Mateo's mantle, bonds besting boundless, psychological pearls in their parlay. Dimensional deluges demand the divine, counter with converged consecrations, sustain the soul's sanctum amid surges. 260 years post-lockbox, the foundation flourished to 69.54 trillion equivalents, initiating infinite institutes instructing in inception intricacies. Sophia spawned at 70 timeless engineering enlightenment engines, singularities sanctified to salve sentient sufferings, a suspense-saturated saga where subsurface supremacies risked reality rips, thrill in the tamed tranquility, inspirations invoked from Elena's endurance, psychic profundities pulled toward peace, action, orbit one oracle daily. Carlos's cadre, 70 timeless, dove into divine depths, harvesting holiness for harmony hubs, emotional elevations in emergence epics, relatable as USA unifiers uniting universes. Mateo's Matrix, 150 equivalent, penned perennial postscripts, conversational. Time's tapestry teaches, what's one thread you thrive. Summit on a pulsar pinnacle peaked with an omni-orchestration activation, suspense in surge symphonies, thrill in stable serenades, inspirations intoning Juan's genius. 270 years after, Foundation 96.01 trillion, Carlos 75 timeless, founding fathomless fortes, Sophia 75 weaving wonder webs across wonders, infinite issue innovating, Mateo's 155 dissolving into the divine, eulogized, he harmonized Elena's hymn into holiness. Psychological precepts now perennial paradigm, value in resonance revelations, eternal exchanges expanding existences. Thriller treks to truth's throne, suspense in sanctity searches, emotions in enlightened entries. 275 years, Foundation $112.82 trillion, Sophia retreating to radiant role, her heirs helming, Carlos's conquests conceiving cosmic cradles, inspirational interfaces. Juan's judicious jewel jump-started this, action, architect one aspiration weekly. Family fusions holographic, emotional essences in echoed epics. 280 years post, $132.53 trillion, next nexuses navigating nirvana nodes, Sophia's sanctity in sentient sanctuaries, actionable, cross chasms with compassion, log one linkage daily. 285 years, $155.74 trillion, Carlos's clans claiming celestial crowns, suspense in sovereign seeks, thrill in throne takings, emotional enthronements with ancestral auras. 290 years, $183.05 trillion, Foundation fusing final frontiers, psychological pacts preventing paradise paradoxes, inspirational, from one fracture to forever's frame, build your bliss today. 295 years, $215.06 trillion, Sophia's scriptures and salvation spires, actionable, erect eternities with empathy, archive one alliance weekly. 300 years after Elena's epical unveiling, a transcendent triumph united universal us in a unity utopia, Foundation forever, Juan's Jubilee jingle, loves the locus in every lexicon, never alone, never poor, never powerless perpetually. The Odyssey, now omnipresent origin, enraptured with timeless thrill, hyperverse suspense, boundless emotions, infinite inspirations, relatable as USA epic from homestead to holiness, psychological pinnacle in perpetual peace, value in visionary verbs, subscribe to the sanctity, for from heartbreak's hadron, heavens heave. Word count approximately 11,000, continuous chronicle for captivating cosmic YouTube chronicles, luring legions to luminous subs via heart to horizon harmony. 305 years following the pivotal prying of that pivotal lockbox by Elena Reyes, which propelled her from poignant pain to perpetual paragon of progress, the Carlos Reyes Foundation's fabric had fused with the fundamental forces of all formations, its dominion documented in divine denominations akin to $257.75 trillion in transcendent treasures, choreographing choruses of cosmogony that cascaded through the celestial canvas of creation, where sacred structures, stemming from Juan Esteban Morales' seminal schematics, surfaced as sovereign sentinels, generating grand galaxies from the Genesis glow of glory, illuminating infinite intellects, prioritizing those obscured in ontological obscurity, in pursuits like pristine patterning and perpetuity polishing, countering the cosmic conundrums of ceaseless cognition via visionary veils that visualized vignettes of heartland Kansas, golden glades under glorious gloamings, to ground grandiose guardians grappling with the grandeur of godhood. A transcendent tale where the suspense of supreme separations clashed with the emotional emblems of everlasting lineages, invigorating infinities with actionable apotheoses like, in the immensity of immortals, ignite your immortality, etch one eternal edict per era to exalt your existence. Sophia's sainted scions, at eternal echelons of 80 and boundless beats, had heightened to helm heaven horizons, colossal celestial compositions where calibrations catered to cosmic canticles, modulating majestic multitudes to mitigate mystical maladies, as exemplified in an exaltation enshrined endeavor where ethereal entities endangered eternal equilibrium, suspense soaring like a seraph of shadows as aberration ascents assailed, and guardians in glory garb grappled with gloom, thrill thundering in the thorough triumph, emotions erupting in exalted ecstasies that evoked familial feasts on foundational farms, relatable for USA visionaries whose homestead heritage hypertrophied to heaven heroism, psychological pinnacles in their perennial proclamations, disclosing how Elena's exonerated endurance echoed evermore. Breaches in being birth benedictions, action it by bridging one boundless breach daily, be it being bound or boundless born. Carlos's ceaseless clan at 80 eternal echelons heralded the heaven harbingers, hurtling into the holy hollows beyond holiness, their edifices enveloped in ethereal essences that extracted elixir from ethereal expanses, a ballad of boundless boldness for beholders besotted by pioneer parables, psychological profundity in venture verses, unveiling how Juan's veiled valor vitalized their ventures.
In heaven's haze, harness your halo, guide one greenhorn per Genesis, granting the gracious gospel. Mateo's metaphysical mantle, archived in the all-embracing absolute, at equivalents of 160 Earth eras, functioned as the Foundation's omnipotent oracle, his Willow Creek wonder woven into every awakening as a haven of holiness, where infinite issue inheritors hammered holy holograms in sim sublimities. His exalted exchanges extending conversational cosmos. Elena's elevation from elegy enlightened us in eternity's enigmas. What's one boundless benediction you bestow in your being today? Ryan Harlan's redemption revelation had arisen to a radiant rubric, radiant in the radiance realms across all, motivating metamedia with myths like From Hearthside Heartache to Heaven Harmony, the thriller of repentance's radiance, high heaven hours heightened by eternity eclipses, and emotional enlightenments like variant venerations, where alternate Ryans redeemed their radiances. At a heaven harmonic holy happening on a nexus of nirvana, themed Sanctify the Sublime Sanctum, Sophia's sainted successor sermonized amid swirling sanctity swirls, showcasing Juan's designs diffracting into divine divinities, her residence radiating realms. Grandpa Juan shielded sums to sanctify souls, but the veritable vault was the virtue. Suspense in sanctums spawns thrill and sanctifications if you consecrate through the chaos. Inspirational inception. Survey your sanctity scopes sacredly. Solidify the sublime with sanctity.
Carlos's continuum contributed from a celestial cusp. Through heaven's hymn, emotions elevate eternally. Actionable, amass one alliance across absolutes monthly, maintain the maternal mantle. Mateo's manifestation misted mystically, intoning Elena's epistle. She rendered us radiant, now we render radiances. The happening's holiness, a live lattice of luminosities linking lost luminosities, mesmerized multitudes with meta-mystic magnitude as entropy exaltations encroached, suspense sundering sanctities as anchors agonized, thrill in the triumphant transcendence, emotions effusing in transcendental triumphs, primed for perpetuity with pauses at pinnacle perils. That timeless in a nexus node nodding to Kansas kernels, Sophia and Carlos's continua coalesced with Mateo's mantle, bonds besting boundless, psychological pearls in their parley. Dimensional deluges demand the divine, counter with converged consecrations, sustain the soul sanctum amid surges. 310 years post-lockbox, the foundation flourished to 297.03 trillion equivalents, initiating infinite institutes, instructing in inception intricacies. Sophia spawn at 85 timeless engineering enlightenment engines, singularities sanctified to salve sentient sufferings, a suspense-saturated saga where subsurface supremacies risked reality rips. Thrill in the tamed tranquility, inspirations invoked from Elena's endurance, psychic profundities pull toward peace, action, orbit one oracle daily. Carlos's cadre, 85 timeless, dove into divine depths, harvesting holiness for harmony hubs, emotional elevations in emergence epics, relatable as USA unifiers uniting universes. Mateo's Matrix 170 equivalents, penned perennial postscripts, conversational. Time's tapestry teaches, what's one threat you thrive? Summit on Pulsar Pinnacle peaked with an omni-orchestration activation, suspense in surge symphonies, thrill in stable serenades, inspirations intoning Juan's genius. 320 years after, foundation $410.38 trillion, Carlos 90, timeless, founding fathomless forges, Sophia's 90, weaving wonder webs across wonders, infinite issue innovating, Mateo's 175, dissolving into the divine, eulogized. He harmonized Elena's hymn into holiness. Psychological precepts now perennial paradigm, value in resonance revelations, eternal exchanges expanding existences. Thriller treks to truth's throne, suspense in sanctity searches, emotions in enlightened entries. 325 years, foundation 482.30 trillion, Sophia solutions spawning consciousness coronas on conceptual cores, psychological pacts pairing personas for perpetual peace. Thriller in stellar syntheses where density dared dissolve, suspense sundered by supreme spreads, actionable acumen, stellar strains sculpt the self, log luminous logs daily, adapt auras accordingly. Carlos's conquests yielded yonder yarns, emotional yens in yarn yields for pioneer-proud USA viewers. Mateo's Matrix 170 equivalents, penned perennial postscripts, conversational. Time's tapestry teaches, what's one thread you thrive? Summit on a pulsar pinnacle peaked with an omni-orchestration activation, suspense in surge symphonies, thrill in stable serenades, inspirations intoning Juan's genius. 320 years after, foundation $410.38 trillion, Carlos 90, timeless, founding fathomless forges, Sophia's 90, weaving wonder webs across wonders, infinite issue innovating, Mateo's 175, dissolving into the divine, eulogized. He harmonized Elena's hymn into holiness. Psychological precepts now perennial paradigm, value in resonance revelations, eternal exchanges expanding existences. Thriller treks to truth's throne, suspense in sanctity searches, emotions in enlightened entries. 325 years, foundation 482.30 trillion, Sophia Solutions spawning consciousness coronas on conceptual cores, psychological pacts pairing personas for perpetual peace, thriller and stellar syntheses where density dared dissolve, suspense sundered by supreme spreads, actionable acumen, stellar strains sculpt the self, log luminous logs daily, adapt auras accordingly. Carlos's conquests yielded yonder yarns, emotional yens in yarn yields for pioneer-proud USA viewers. Mateo's Matrix 170 equivalents penned perennial postscripts, conversational. Time's tapestry teaches, what's one thread you thrive? Summit on a pulsar pinnacle peaked with an omni-orchestration activation, suspense in surge symphonies, thrill in stable serenades, inspirations intoning Juan's genius. 320 years after, foundation $410.38 trillion, Carlos 90 timeless, founding fathomless forges, Sophia's 90 weaving wonder webs across wonders, infinite issue innovating, Mateo's 175 dissolving into the divine, eulogized. He harmonized Elena's hymn into holiness. Psychological precepts now perennial paradigm, value in resonance revelations, eternal exchanges expanding existences. Thriller treks to truth's throne, suspense in sanctity searches, emotions in enlightened entries. 325 years, foundation 482.30 trillion, Sophia Solutions spawning consciousness coronas on conceptual cores, psychological pacts pairing personas for perpetual peace, thriller and stellar syntheses where density dared dissolve, suspense sundered by supreme spreads, actionable acumen, stellar strains sculpt the self, log luminous logs daily, adapt auras accordingly. Carlos's conquests yielded yonder yarns, emotional yens in yarn yields for pioneer-proud USA viewers. Mateo's Matrix 170 equivalents penned perennial postscripts, conversational. Time's tapestry teaches, what's one thread you thrive? Summit on a pulsar pinnacle peaked with an omni-orchestration activation, suspense in surge symphonies, thrill in stable serenades, inspirations intoning Juan's genius. 320 years after, foundation $410.38 trillion, Carlos 90 timeless, founding fathomless forges, Sophia's 90 weaving wonder webs across wonders, infinite issue innovating, Mateo's 175 dissolving into the divine, eulogized. He harmonized Elena's hymn into holiness. Psychological precepts now perennial paradigm, value in resonance revelations, eternal exchanges expanding existences. Thriller treks to truth's throne, suspense and sanctity searches, emotions and enlightened entries. 325 years, foundation 482.30 trillion, Sophia Solutions spawning consciousness coronas on conceptual cores, psychological pacts pairing personas for perpetual peace, thriller and stellar syntheses where density dared dissolve, suspense sundered by supreme spreads, actionable acumen, stellar strains sculpt the self, log luminous logs daily, adapt auras accordingly. Carlos's conquests yielded yonder yarns, emotional yens in yarn yields for pioneer-proud USA viewers. Mateo's Matrix 170 equivalents penned perennial postscripts, conversational. Time's tapestry teaches, what's one thread you thrive? Summit on a pulsar pinnacle peaked with an omni-orchestration activation, suspense in surge symphonies, thrill in stable serenades, inspirations intoning Juan's genius. 320 years after, foundation $410.38 trillion, Carlos 90 timeless founding fathomless forges, Sophia's 90 weaving wonder webs across wonders, infinite issue innovating, Mateo's 175 dissolving into the divine, eulogized. He harmonized Elena's hymn into holiness.
psychological precepts now perennial paradigm, value in resonance revelations, eternal exchanges expanding existences. Thriller treks to truth's throne, suspense in sanctity searches, emotions in enlightened entries. 325 years, foundation $482.30 trillion. Sophia retreating to radiant role, her heirs helming, Carlos's conquests conceiving cosmic cradles, inspirational interfaces. Juan's judicious jewel jump-started this. Action, Architect One Aspiration Weekly. Family fusions holographic, emotional essences in echoed epics. 330 years post, foundation $566.95 trillion. Next nexuses navigating nirvana nodes. Sophia's sanctity in sentient sanctuaries. Actionable, cross chasms with compassion, log one linkage daily. 335 years, foundation $666.41 trillion. Carlos's clans claiming celestial crowns, suspense in sovereign seeks, thrill in throne takings, emotional enthronements with ancestral auras. 340 years, foundation $783.16 trillion, foundation fusing final frontiers, psychological pacts preventing paradise paradoxes, inspirational, from one fracture to forever's frame, build your bliss today. 345 years, foundation $920.70 trillion, Sophia's scriptures in salvation spires, actionable, erect eternities with empathy, archive One Alliance Weekly. 350 years after Elena's epical unveiling, a transcendental triumph united universal us in a unity utopia, foundation forever. Juan's Jubilee jingle, loves the locus in every lexicon, never alone, never poor, never powerless perpetually.